First of all, on behalf of the Rock Valley College Student Government Association and the students of the school, I would like to thank you all for your participation in today's forum. And candidates, I'd like to thank you for your interest in running for the position of trustee. First, I have to read a statement. Illinois law expressly prohibits the use of public funds to urge electors to vote for or against any candidate or proposition or be appropriated for political or campaign purposes to any candidate or political organization. Thank you. Questions will be moderated by myself. I'm the student trustee here at the college. My name is Elijah Wortgo, and Dr. Ashford, who is the vice president of student services. 4 candidates will answer questions for 1 hour. We're going to try and keep the answers brief, about 1.5 minutes per answer, unless it's a yes or no question, and allow each candidate a chance to answer as many questions as possible. If the candidates would please start by taking a couple of minutes to introduce yourselves and tell a little bit about yourselves, we'd appreciate it, and you can start in any order.
Okay, my name is Teri Schierer, and I think everyone here is running for the 6-year term. Am I correct? Okay. What I was just saying to somebody in the audience, I may not be as eloquent a speaker as some of the candidates here today, but I'm going to tell you, I am the most passionate and committed person to the community, and I will continue that in my role as RVC trustee, and that's why I'm running today.
Hello, I'm very happy to see everyone in the audience today. My name is Meredith Stoll. I am a planned giving specialist for Crusader Community Health. I have spent about 15 years in nonprofits in our community, and a lot of that time specific to education. I'm a Rock Valley College alumna. I credit the college for changing my life and moving me toward education. So I'm very excited to be doing this and hopefully have the opportunity to serve the college and give back.
Good afternoon. My name is Gloria Cardenas Cudia, and I'm also running for a 6-year term. I want to thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity to just share a few words with you. First of all, I am a retiree from the Rockford Park District, so I was in the fun and recreation business. I was in the marketing department. My job was to get people to get out and enjoy life and play and take time to rest and enjoy the beautiful trees and parks that we have here in the Rockford area. I grew up in Texas. I went to a segregated elementary school, and I didn't go to school with white kids or black kids until I was in the 7th grade. So I've had an interesting background, and Meredith just asked me if English or Spanish was my first language, and actually it's both, because my parents taught me to speak both English and Spanish. I thought it was the most natural thing in the world. You have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 languages. So I graduated from West High School, took some Rock Valley classes as needed. When I was in high school, I was steered towards secretarial classes instead of college-bound courses. So I really kind of more or less kind of self-taught myself. I worked for a television station, WIFR-TV. I was the employee relations director, so I hired and fired people. But I also learned how to produce and host television programs. I do those right now. I volunteer at Comcast for both a Spanish and English programs to help the community connect their programs and services and events with the community. I think that's the main thing, a little bit about me. The main reason that I'm running for the Rock Valley College Board of Trustees is because my entire life I have pretty much bridged people. I may not know how to play tennis, but I know people who know and how to train people, so I just bridge them. Just little things like that. My role here, what I'd like to do is to expand the relationships that Rock Valley has, not only with the entire community, but about 5 or 6 counties that we serve. Those need to be connected with us as well at a higher level. I think the things that Rock Valley is doing right now are going well. I'd like to see that continue. I'd like to also advocate the importance of both career and technical programs There are many people that are being left out because they truly don't understand too much of what's going on here at Rock Valley. Rock Valley has the opportunity, it isn't a one-size-fits-all, but it does have the opportunity to help people.
Okay, we're going to answer a few questions
Okay,
later.
there you
and
go.
thank you for your introduction. We
Thank
pass it
you.
along. Sorry that we just have a tight schedule. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dave Cunningham, and I always start this because I'm not a Rock Valley student in the past. I always start this with, if you ever saw the ad that was Pick a Future, Devin in the art world, that was my daughter, so we do have a connection. For the last 20 years, I've led organizations at technology-driven manufacturing companies, so I get the community's need for access to trained and appropriately educated potential workforce. I have an electrical engineering degree from a liberal arts college, actually, in Ohio, called Ohio Northern University, and an MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management. So as an engineer by training, I get the importance of linking the capabilities of the college to the community's needs. As a finance person by education and kind of some frying pan into the fire experience, I get the need for fiscal responsibility. And finally, I'm an experienced board member. I'm on a company here in town. I'm on the current board of a company. And I was on the board of governors at MIT Sloan Fellows Program and was on the accreditation committee for my school's electrical engineering and computer science department. And I even served on the board of the Rockford Symphony for a while with people that I see here that I know. So with this experience, I think I've got a great deal to offer Rock Valley in its board of trustees, its employees, and most of all, its students. I say this at the end of each of these kind of events, is that I have moved to the Rockford area 5 times as an adult. And I can tell you that what Rock Valley has and what it offers, it's a gem. There aren't lots of places like what it has, and it's exciting to be up for the election as a trustee for the Rock Valley Board.
Okay. Would you like to say one more thing? Is that what you're saying?
I was just keeping it very short in the beginning so we can get going, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background. I do got a degree in chemical engineering and biology from Michigan Tech University. There I even taught a class in chemistry, freshman chemistry there. I have been on a board, the American Institute of Chemical Engineers. I have been very active I also have a background in environmental engineering, so chemical engineering, environmental engineering, and I have been very active in different community groups. I was very active in living wages to the trades. I don't know if you saw some of those forums. I was involved in Women in the Trades, which was in a relationship with the unions and also RVC. We became a combined effort. And I also was on the local school councils over in Chicago. Just to name a few, I ask you just to go to my website because I want to keep this short. But thank you.
You can keep that up there. Okay, and before we ask our first official question, I just want to make a note that these questions are from the student's perspective. This is a student-led forum. We do not have the opinions of the administration or the faculty or anything like that, so we're just asking our questions. And also, one other thing I wanted to make note of is if you have a question as an audience member, if you'd like to come up here and write that down, we may have time at the end. With that, we'll ask our first question.
Okay. This is a yes or no question. You are running for a 6-year term. Are you making a public commitment to the constituents of this community and the students of this school that you will fulfill your 6-year term in its entirety before you seek any other political office?
One cannot tell what is in the future. I'm going to say that right up front. But yes, I am committing to working with the Rock Valley College.
Yes, to a full 6-year term.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. In fact, as I said, I am a retiree, so I do have extra time if I needed to do anything else for the community and for the college during the day. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Our next question is open-ended, and we would ask that you please define the role of a trustee. just how you see it in your own words, and please keep answers to about 1:45 seconds. I'll try and keep it even.
I see the role of the trustees as really the policy setters for the college. The trustees, I'll tell you what they don't do. They don't look at pencils, how many pencils were wasted or paper wasted, but they also would deal with contracts and the overall operation and functions of the college.
The role of a Rock Valley College trustee is as a policymaker, a legislative advocate, a good steward of taxpayer dollars, and a champion for the college in our community. I think also that we need to foster strong partnerships and always encourage collaborative opportunities. And these should always be done with a mind of fiscal responsibility.
I guess I could just say ditto to everything that's being said, but I would just expand it maybe to just say to be role models to build trust and respect, not only within the board, but also among each other. Because one of the things that we can't do for others, what we don't do for ourselves internally. I think we could better serve the public by doing that as well. Thank you.
I think a trustee at a school like RVC has two main responsibilities. First is a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers in all matters financial. The second is an oversight responsibility in the direction and management of the school. As the question was stated, it said it shouldn't impact the college, and I'm not sure I agree with that, as I don't think there'd be a reason for Board of Trustees if they could have no impact. But I do agree that the responsibilities are oversight and not day-to-day and direct management.
Okay, this is another yes or no question. Board of Trustees elections are to be nonpartisan. Have you or will you accept endorsements, cash, or in-kind contributions from any internal employee group at the college?
Our role here as a trustee is not to fall in line with any particular faction at the college, and therefore I do not have any endorsements or money from any of the different factions that are going on at the college.
Sorry for the lack of yes or no's. I'm going to answer this in two parts as well. I think an endorsement is a vote of confidence, and that I would accept. I think a monetary endorsement is completely different and gets into ethical murky waters, and that I would not accept.
I agree with that too. Are cookies okay? Okay. No, I agree. Thank you so much. I feel the same way.
No.
As a trustee, you will be faced with rising costs of operating Rock Valley College. Nearly 80% of our operating budget is above the line, salaries and benefits. Should the state fail to pass a budget, as they have in the past, would you support a property tax or tuition increase to support the rising costs of operation? How would you plan to deal with this operational challenge? And to be fair, if the same person doesn't want to always start, so you get more time, we can start on the other end, and it doesn't matter how we do it.
Okay, well, first of all, I think we've had enough with property taxes. That's one of the things that we hear over and over again, not just from Rock Valley taxpayers, but throughout our community. As far as increasing tuition, I can't imagine that we would need to, but if we would, it would be something we would look at. But I would encourage looking at other sources of income, other sources of revenue. I guess one of the first questions I would ask is, do we have a full-time grant writer on staff? When we were at the Rockford Park District, we had one on staff who raised millions. When I served on the Rockford School Board at the turn of the century, this one, not the other one, we also hired yeah, so I'm not that old. We also hired a grant writer at the Rockford Public School District, and she also raised several $1 million for different programs. So I think the dollars are out there. It's a question of just finding them. I think another thing would be to utilize social media. I think if we could just connect, we've got an amazing tool to use. That would be another resource for us to take a look at. So, thank you.
I'm going to pass on this one until we get to question 5 because I don't see them in isolation. So if you guys can come back to me after we've read question 5, I'll answer them both the same same time.
I agree. I've got some redundancies in my answers to those as well, but I think that paying mind to operational efficiency is what needs to be looked at before any big sweeping changes are made and tuition is increased. I think the line held on property taxes is an absolute. But tuition increases need to be looked at very carefully before they're implemented. I think the board made a great decision in the last few weeks by passing differentiated tuition and looking at the cost of what it costs to give a class and structuring the way that that is paid for. It's not equal across the board, and I think that that was a really important decision. And those types of efficiencies are what need to be looked at. Also, creative ways to increase revenue as well.
Historically, RVC has raised tax rates. Last year, it was a very small portion, but they do that. However, Rock Valley College, I think you're all aware, has one of the lowest costs of going to school than any other of tuition than any other college, community college in the area, which is very good. Now, as far as operational costs, we always have to look at the operations of the facilities. What can we do to keep the costs down? But in saying, like I said, I am proud that RVC does have the lowest tuition, but we want to keep it that way. Am I right?
Okay. One of the major challenges facing all units of government in the state of Illinois is the looming pension crisis. There are conversations that this pension and OPEB liability should be placed at the local college. Currently, this would be about $18 million annual liability to the college. As a trustee, how would you fund this obligation if it were passed from the state to the college?
Since I punted on the first one, I'll take this one first. Fiscal responsibility for me is all about understanding your budget and where your revenues are going to come from and what the associated costs are. So in composite, I actually very much agree with what the current administration has been doing with respect to budgeting, which calls for defining a budget which is balanced without using state funds, meaning only property tax and tuition and fees. And like Meredith said, I'm a big believer in the differential tuition that they are going to adopt for the coming school year. If and when the state funding happens, and it's kind of a crapshoot as to when it happens and the amount that it happens in, under this policy, then what happens is you put it towards capital projects that are on the books, or you put it towards things like funding unfunded liabilities, such as the pension question that was asked.
I agree. Operational efficiencies are where you need to look first, and I completely agree with what the administration has done in operating as though state funding will never come, because this is Illinois. There are no guarantees. I think that's a very prudent and fiscally responsible thing to do. I would hope that that could be held to help shoulder that burden in the future.
The challenge with pensions is not new to anywhere. Everyone is looking at what do we do to fund the pensions, and that's going to be looked at very, very closely in the future. As far as the state, I am happy to know that Dr. Jensen has been using the state funding not for situations like this, but because of capital projects. So he uses it more like a, I would say, could I use the word slush fund to help out? So I'm very, very glad that he does that. But it's going to take a lot of work. I don't have all the details on the pension. I have seen other areas, other community groups, other government groups, and how they're handling it. I don't totally agree with some of the groups, because some people are predicting that the market will always be going up like it is today. And I have also a background in financial services, so I know that is not going to happen, and we have to look at all aspects.
One of the things that I am part of as a retiree of the Rockford Park District is the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, IMRF. It is a very good program. It is is comprised of employee contributions, employer contributions, and 60% of it is from investment returns. I find that not only does it work well for the Park District retirees, but throughout the state, it has worked very well. Several years ago, I was in investments and insurance, and I worked for Primerica. I was a regional vice president. So I learned and discovered the magic of compound interest. So many of us and many of my customers and clients learned about that and the value of 401ks. And so perhaps maybe it's time that we also take a look at some of those other options that are out there and not totally depend on the state and some of the things that are being utilized right now, as was mentioned in other government agencies, that are really, really hurting the taxpayer. That would be one of my focuses in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. We just had an audience question, and they asked, what is the differential tuition you have mentioned as being passed recently by RVC's board? So I know as a student, if you're a student here, you received an email. I'm not sure if all the faculty did, but what this means is that people who are in CTE programs, career and technical education, they have a higher tuition rate now because those courses cost more to operate. And then the liberal arts courses that we offer here have stayed at the same rate. And so that's something that we did to offset costs in certain programs that have a higher, I guess, just cost of running. Thank you. And again, I just want to encourage people, if you have audience questions, please bring them up here, and we'll try and ask them at the end. Thank you.
To answer that specifically, the technical courses are now approximately $140 per hour versus the other courses, liberal arts courses, which are at $115 per hour.
One of the major, sorry, I just read that one. Communication with instructors is critical for students. As a member of the Student Government Association, a common complaint we receive is that students aren't able to connect with instructors in a timely manner and that office hours aren't accessible. How would you define acceptable office hours and response time to students' emails?
I come from a more corporate environment, so I see two customers in what's happening here, the students and the community. So it's a bit of an oddity, but as an engineering major, I was also an English teaching assistant at the small school where I went to college. And I can tell you that access to my time and the professor's time was important to those students that needed it. I would argue that it's important to have the right kind of hours for the course that's given, and that the office hours need to be face-to-face, although I don't think that's what the contract actually calls for right now. Email time to me, and I have family members that I have this argument with all the time, email response time is a matter of respect. Whether it's in your business or your personal life, it's not unreasonable to expect a response to any email within 24 hours. There are exceptions to that, whether somebody's traveling or out for personal or medical reasons, but every app or program I've ever seen in the email world has an out-of-office response option that can be used to let people know that you're gone. So bottom line is, I don't see why any email can't be responded to, even if it's with an out-of-office reply, in 24 hours.
I believe a 24-hour time frame is good. But in addition to that, I would say it would be important for the student and the professor or teacher to get together and kind of set up some guidelines. For instance, if the student knows that the professor or the teacher has certain hours, like between 3 and 4, that he or she is not available, then they won't get a response. I would imagine the first thing I would do is set up some guidelines between the two, especially for those classes that are just critical, that are going to make a difference in graduating on time or, you know, passing the next level.
I'm also going to say that I am taking a course here at the college. It's Spanish. I wanted to enhance my life with a little bit of Spanish, so hola everybody. But I know the value of a teacher getting back to a student. When you have a challenge and it's late at night, and maybe you need it within a few days, you want that to happen. Unfortunately, the contract now states that teachers have to have up to, I believe, 10 days. Someone correct me if I am incorrect. And I think that's a little bit long, especially since you might be studying for a test that's happening in 3 days.
I come from the nonprofit world. I know when you're working for a mission, you're constantly in a time crunch. I 100% understand that. I think in the age of digital communication, email can certainly be responded to sooner than 10 days. I think the 24-hour window might be a bit of a time crunch. I think 2 days is certainly reasonable when it comes to being responsive to student need. It's a little more difficult to outline office hours. I know that was a part of the question. That should be commensurate with time in class in terms of what that looks like. Could be different for different classes, but as far as digital communication goes, I think a 48-hour business day window is absolutely a sign of respect, as Dave said well.
All right, a portion of the student activity fee is designated to clubs and organizations. Do you think student club activities should be eligible for course credit?
This is my favorite question. A little of my background. I went to school at Rock Valley College, and I also worked here, and I headed up campus activities and leadership development. So campus activities is very close to my heart. I actually wrote the original charter for the Campus Activities Board. So for all of the students that are involved in the room, you are leading and you are learning, and I commend you. So thank you for that. And thank you for this question. It's incredibly important. One of the first things that I was able to do when I worked with students to establish CAB was to learn from them and saw the amount of work that they put in and how valuable that was. And the whole idea of having a robust offering of out-of-class activities was to complement the in-class experience. It's all a part of leadership development. I think creative design is a wonderful thing, and if a course were to be designed by faculty and activity advisors that offered clear outcomes and complemented an in-class experience, that would make sense to me. I do think it would work if designed that way. It would certainly have to have faculty involvement, and I think that it could spur a lot more campus involvement if there was credit attached to it. I'm not aware of models out there where this is the case, however. If that didn't happen, I encourage students very much to stay involved, even if you don't get credit, because you're building relationships with staff that can provide future references. You're displaying leadership skills that will build your resume and enriching the experience of the whole campus. So if you're not receiving credit, you're still receiving value, absolutely.
As far as extra club credit, first of all, clubs are excellent. You can go on to college and get a great education, but you do need to have people skills, and leadership skills, and that's what the clubs do. They provide that is not always offered through the course. But when it comes down to credit, that's a very good question. The question, though, is more important: what are other colleges doing, and will those credits be allowed to transfer? That would be very important when we're deciding whether that should be done.
That's one area that I would probably need to study a little bit more. I saw that there were a little over 40 clubs here at Rock Valley College. I think the one area that I would consider possibly having credit is if that club is related to the course of study. And I'll just use an example. If, for instance, if somebody is studying to become a bilingual teacher, whether it's English as a second language, and the student is part of a club, a Spanish club, or a chemistry class or a club that is associated with something in their field of, let's say, they're going to become a doctor eventually, I think that would be something I would consider. But as I said, I would have to study that a little bit more. Thank you.
I'm with Gloria. I didn't have time to do a lot of research on this, but I think I'm probably the outlier here a little bit. I think that the first question you have to answer is, what does the college want to do in terms of its accreditation, like Teri was saying? And that accreditation is the most important thing of whether you're going to offer credit for an activity on class, regardless of whether it's a class or a club. You need to have that decision about accreditation. That said, I would make the argument that classes are classes and clubs are clubs, and they're distinct for a reason. That you do the club thing to enhance, as people were saying here, to enhance your connectivity to the campus as a whole, to the faculty, to the staff as a whole, and that the classes are specific to achieving an end goal, whether it's a degree of some type, a certification of some type, training of some type, and that I think those two, while they can be complementary, should be separate.
I told you some of these people are more eloquent than me.
All right, we have another question from the group. How do you feel about providing childcare for RVC students?
I think childcare is a huge barrier to access, and the more we can do to decrease barriers to access, the better off we're going to be. I think if we can formulate some partnerships that can make that possible, it is certainly worth exploring. I would be all in favor of it if it was feasible.
I think it would be valuable. We would have to take a look at all the logistics, whether, as far as costs, liabilities, things like that. Roosevelt School, which is one of our schools here in town, they do offer that. I think we would also have to look at the demographics of our students. How many, I don't know that there are that many single fathers, but how many single mothers are coming to our classes and attending Rock Valley? So we would have to look at all those logistics before we could say, yes, let's do it or not. But if it would help to educate more of our community members, it would be something we would seriously have to take a look at. Thank you.
From my view, I think it would be a fantastic thing to offer. But as Meredith alluded to, I think it needs to be something done in partnership. That's not a core mission of the school, although you are supposed to try and meet students' needs, and to enable that with daycare that helps enable that would be great. But it needs to be done in partnership. I don't think we want to have an RVC Department of Child Care. Sure.
I believe statistics tell us that the average person going to RVC is 25 years old, works part-time, and I believe some of them have children, and sometimes it's very, very important that child care be given. And child care, it could be something that could not, for instance, there could be a stipulation that they cannot leave their child more than 2 hours. There are some things that we can look into. We can also look into, is there some courses within the college that people can get credit for working at the child care area. But once again, just as all the other person on this panel had said, it is something that has to have a study. Me just saying one thing or another, I have definite thoughts about it, being a single mother for many years. But however, we would have to look at that in its entirety, costs, insurance, etc.
Thank you. That was an audience question, by the way, so thank you for your participation. As student trustee, I recently attended an ICCB SAC meeting where I was encouraged to promote CTE pathways at the community college and K through 12 levels. Would you, as a trustee, share this interest?
I've already been involved in talking with people about pathways. I was very much involved in looking at living wage jobs through the trades and also women in the trades. And one thing I was looking at and talking with the different RVC components, CNC, et cetera, is the pathways. And it's very important that we start looking at careers early on in a child's education. To get to college age and decide what do I want to do with the rest of my life is a little bit late, so we should be doing it. And also, many of these courses that are offered, for instance, in the high school level, can be getting credit for college while they're there. So we should continue to explore that and enhance it as needed.
We're so polite up here. No, you. I really enjoy this. I think, yes, I certainly share that interest, and I think that CTEs are something we're talking a lot about in the community right now, and it's a great question. CTEs, when talking about that in tandem with pathways are more than just CTEs, but it's certainly something to explore. Teri hit it on the head when she said that that's what can spark a student's passion and interest, and we have to do that earlier and earlier. That's how we really get students keyed into what they want to do. That's how we keep them going to school and keep them motivated. I think that we're talking about it a lot right now because we have a skills gap in our community, and CTE courses are certainly a big way that Rock Valley can help to bridge that gap through providing those courses and providing pathways that give access to those.
Well, yes, I think it's something that's very valuable to us. I think a lot of times our students don't realize the valuable assets that they already have. I mean, I can use that as an example. As I said, growing up as a student that was a child that was already bilingual, there were times when I was punished in the schools for speaking Spanish, and I was told, speak English, this is America. And, but if I was playing in the playground and speaking Spanish, that was my time. But it wasn't until I started working at Rockford Clinic in my senior year in high school that there was a need for a translator for a lady that was having an attack of some sort. So they called on me, this little high school senior, Gloria, can you come and help us? And I discovered what was wrong, and the doctor was able to treat her. But again, those are the assets that some of those things, that these skills that are brought to the table that can be utilized not only in the high school but through college, but also in partnership with employers. I think that would be so very valuable even more for the student. Thank you.
Better? Thank you. You'll be able to tell from my answer that I'm an engineer, and I put on my engineer's hat when I answered this. Not only do I share that interest, but I think that Rock Valley College as an institution is obligated to share that interest. Where I grew up in Ohio, we had two different types of non-four-year colleges you go to. You could go to a vocational school, which is just what the name implies, or you could go to a junior college, which was intended to get you into a four-year program. Illinois does it different, and Rock Valley has as part of its charter to serve those community needs of both aspects, the vocational and training side of it, as well as the purely academic and four-year degree path that we're talked about. So I think not only is it interesting and we should be doing it, but I think the school is obligated to.
Okay, keeping in that vein, much of the recent discussion in the community has been placed on technical education. Coleman Village has been a hot topic that you've been asked about at each forum. Briefly, explain your position on liberal arts versus technical education at Rock Valley College.
My position is that there is no versus. It can be both, and both can be done well. I think that the Coleman Village represents much more than an opportunity to expand CTE courses, but it could do so very well in advanced manufacturing. Rock Valley will be an incredible anchor for that project. I think that it is well aligned with community partnerships that can have a huge positive economic impact on our region. But the liberal arts versus CTE, we've got to take the versus out of the equation.
Well, I totally support the Coleman Village project, and I think one of the things, just based on my experience from having been with, again, with the Rockford School Board, when Ellis School and Barber Schools were built, when I was, during my term, Just the property values alone, the pride that the neighbors took in these new facilities, the beauty of this partnership that the school district had with the city and the county. I mean, it just made for a great relationship. But again, the fact that Coleman Village is on the west side, which really does need that little oomph to make it feel proud for being part of this successful initiative, is going to make a big difference. It isn't just about the building, it's about the community, the human factor. And again, I would say let's do it, but let's do it right. We don't, I guess the thing that one of the things that comes to mind is the desegregation lawsuit that was going on during my term on the school board. And the West Side community used to get secondhand carpeting, used books, and we wouldn't want to give them a used building. We want to make it really first class, and I think that would be something that I would want to encourage. Thank you.
One thing about Rock Valley College is an asset to Rockford and its community of Winnebago, Boone, Stevenson, etc. And if anyone's been following, for instance, the unemployment rate in Rockford and surrounding areas, we actually have an unemployment rate 3 times that of the nation. Now, companies want to come here to Rockford. Unfortunately, if we do not have the skilled labor, they will not come. We have to do something about that. We also have to do something about lowering the unemployment rate here in the region. Barbara Coleman project is a great example of Rock Valley College working with the community to make that happen. And as other people said, it's the technical program shouldn't be any more important than their liberal arts programs, but it should be both of them working together, because those are not even all the programs that are being offered through Rock Valley College. Rock Valley College, like I said, is an asset. There are people that will go to things like the Starlight Theater. They might take extra courses when they get older. There's even a bus tour you could take as a senior. So there's quite a few different things that can be offered at Rock Valley College. And like I said, Rock Valley College is an asset, and we can continue to have the different areas work together.
Going on from what Teri just said, there was a recent Wall Street Journal article that showed Rockford, the Rockford metropolitan area, as having, it was number 90 out of 324 metropolitan areas looked at for opportunity, economic opportunity and development. So kind of piling on to what Teri said here, if that's going to happen, we need to be able to provide the workforce that's going to enable that to happen so we can eventually get to a higher level there. Going back to the question, I agree completely with Meredith that this is not a versus thing. It is not liberal arts versus CTE. In fact, I can tell you, as I alluded to earlier, I'm an electrical engineer by trade, but that school was buried into a liberal arts focused university, and I worked in an English department. And I think that the critical thinking that I got from the liberal arts side of the house was very important to my success as an executive, and not just looking at the engineering and training side of it that I got. Interestingly enough, if you look at the statistics over the last 10 years in terms of credit hours at Rock Valley College, you do a split between liberal arts and CTEs, and it's 80% liberal arts, 20% CTE and training kind of classes, plus or minus only 2% for the last 10 years. So it's been amazingly consistent. And in that time frame, they've been able to bring on other programs like the nursing program in cooperation with OSF, like the engineering.
That's your time.
Sorry?
Sorry, that's your time.
Bye.
Sorry. We were asked by the audience. I'm sorry. There are 12 candidates for this 6-year trustee position. Where are the other 8 candidates? Were all 12 invited? Yes, all 16 of them are invited, and they will be here the next hour, and then tomorrow we're going to start at the same time, and there will be 2 more sessions, if anyone was wondering about that. All right, this is our last official question. Rock Valley College has a tremendous history in athletics. In the last, since 2011, the college has won 13 national championships. Recently, our bowling team was the national runner-up, and last week, our men's basketball team also took second in the nation. Our student athletes demonstrate success in the classroom and in competition. What do you see as the future for RVC athletics, and how would you support this vision?
Well, having worked at the Rockford Park District for 20 years and serving also as a Park District Commissioner, recreation and leisure activities were a priority. Sports are good for the individual, both for the spirit and the soul. But I will say that as far as sports or expanding athletics here, that would be something that would be something that I would look to the community and the students as to the value of it, or if they feel that it needs to be expanded. I even had somebody, I went to the Ro-Ro Expo in Roscoe, and I had a gentleman ask me, you know, do you all have wrestling over there? Like, I'm already here. I said, I really don't know. I said, but, and then he started talking about how we should have wrestling team, it doesn't cost that much. And I thought, well, you know, obviously with anything related to sports, you know, is it something that is going to be in addition to the education? Is it the value? I mean, do we have enough teams, you know, with other community colleges to pursue it? There would be too many questions for me to say, yes, let's do it. I would just say for now, we're on the right track and maybe keep it that way until I study it some more. But I think people should take time to have fun. Thank you.
Athletics has always been an important part in colleges and in schools, and I'm hoping that it continue. But remember that one area of the college cannot suffer because of another area. Sometimes if students aren't getting the educational background they need, that should be looked at directly, because a person can go to school on a scholarship, blow out a knee, and come out of school without anything to go into. So we need a balanced approach. I heartily believe in athletics, but it comes down to cost, making sure the students are being educated, and I think Rock Valley College is doing a very good way in that, and I want that to continue. So I'm going to turn it over to Meredith.
Sorry, Dave. Well, first, congratulations to the men's basketball team. Congratulations to the women's volleyball team. There's so much that has happened that has been phenomenal very recently, and the bowling team, absolutely. A lot's happened. There's a lot to be proud of. It certainly increases a sense of pride at the institution, and it adds value to the institution. Having said that, community colleges and athletics have a complex relationship. Everything needs to come down to mission. And the mission of Rock Valley College is to empower students and the community through lifelong learning. That needs to be central to the tough questions that sometimes need to be asked when examining this issue. How do athletics serve the mission of the college? What is the expense to revenue ratio, and what are the risks and opportunities there? There are a lot of very difficult questions that Rock Valley knows in the recent past have had very difficult implications and outcomes. But when you are mission focused, those are the questions that have to be asked, and to see how students will be served best in terms of the outcomes.
I played basketball for a couple years while I was getting my undergrad, and my son played basketball or volleyball his freshman year where he went to school. So I get the desire to compete, and I'm a big believer, whether it's kindergarten through 12th or at the college level, that there are important lessons to be learned in terms of teamwork and commitment and dedication and other things that you need to succeed in life. At the same time, though, I agree that at a place like Rock Valley College, which has a mission statement, as Meredith stated, that it needs to be the right focus and the right place in the community overall. It shouldn't be the reason somebody goes to Rock Valley College, but it can be an opportunity that someone can exploit once they're here.
That was it? Okay. My bad. All right, so unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for the first session. So thank you all for coming, both candidates and audience members. We invite you to stay for our next session, where we will be presenting the same questions to 4 more candidates for the RVC Board of Trustees position.